Welcome back to another video. In this video, I wanted to talk about dopamine and happiness and how it is related to our spiritual traditions, especially the esoteric traditions. And here, let us first understand how dopamine actually affects our bodies and how it affects our mindset. Now, there are countless number of videos that you will probably find on YouTube defining and explaining the way the dopamine affects our bodies and the effects of dopamine and the effects of short-term gratification on our mindsets. Now, in this video, I will give you a brief of what and how dopamine actually affects you. So, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is released in your brain whenever you are anticipating a reward. So, everybody has their own normative value of dopamine levels. For example, an athlete has a normative value and a normal person has a normative value. So if we consider this value as the base of dopamine level, and anything that goes up is going to come back to this normative value. Now, there are actions that we do in our day-to-day basis which increase this level of dopamine in our body. And whenever we are anticipating a reward, we are increasing the dopamine levels in our body. Now, anticipating a reward is also desiring something, and whenever we are moving close to this desire that we have, we are increasing the level of dopamine released in our body. Now, this increase can be rapid and this increase can be gradual. Usually, gradual increase in dopamine is preferred because this gradual increase in dopamine can lead you to a gradual decrease later on after the reward has been achieved. For example, if I am gaining the dopamine level in my body by reading a book, this anticipation of ending the book is actually motivating me to move forward and complete the book. Whenever you end something, that is when the dopamine spikes. And after this dopamine spike, there is a phase of a downtime where your dopamine returns back to the normative levels of your body. Now, whenever you are doing an act that is leading you towards a long-term gratifying reward, that is, if your reward takes time to be gratified, then this increase in dopamine is gradual, and over time this is the downtime in this after the reward has been received is also very gradual. But if it is a short-term gratifying act, for example, eating a sweet or maybe, and here in short-term gratification there are a lot of things, not just physical things that we do. These are also small things. Even acts of immorality can be regarded as short-term gratifying. For example, if you find yourself in a situation where you can lie in one sentence and get what you want, then this is actually an accurate representation, or it is synonymous to eating a sweet, for example. So whenever you lie or whenever you do certain immoral things, these are usually short-term gratifying things that we are doing. So not just the short-term gratifying things related to our physical body, even our mental values and our different realms of our consciousness here. So it affects on a lot of different aspects of our day-to-day life. So whenever you do this short-term gratifying act, there is a sudden spike in dopamine, and but after this sudden spike there is a sudden rapid decrease in dopamine, and usually this decrease is below the normative levels of your dopamine of your body. So when your dopamine level goes below the normative dopamine levels, then there is a feeling of guilt, there is a feeling of a downtime, or there is sometimes this can be so rapid and so low that it can make you almost depressed. And people who usually have suffered with already low normative levels of dopamine, when this level of dopamine is almost depleted, they are depressed. Usually, since they are not increasing their normative value of dopamine, this is usually very low in people who suffer with depression, or people who are even in Parkinson's disease, or there are a lot of disorders related to dopamine and its low levels. So then, if you here it needs to be understood that long-term gratifying can increase dopamine levels over time, and the more it increases, the more your normative value of dopamine increases. That is, for example, now if you have completed a book successfully, now your normative dopamine value in your body is increased slightly. Now, in order to balance that and in order to regain that, you'll try to do some things that are even more challenging and even more rewarding. So you will move on to maybe explaining the things that you have learned in the book, or maybe writing an essay on it, or maybe writing a summary on it and posting it on in your social media account. This will be much more rewarding to you and will increase your dopamine level. This can also be observed in athletes. For example, you can see that athletes who work and train for years and years to attain the reward of a medal in the games. Now, most of these athletes either do this knowingly or do this unknowingly. But I believe that most of them do this knowingly, that they increase their normative values of dopamine so much that they are extending their goal and reward to even after years, maybe after 10 years. And all this training is leading them towards this, to have a really high level of dopamine. But there are also negative effects here that can be observed in some of the athletes who, after gaining a reward, that is, after gaining fame and success, fall into deep stages of depression because they are not able to understand this mechanism of the anticipation of reward and this mechanism of dopamine in their bodies. But of course, there are others who understand this and who move on to do really great things, and who are more eligible for scholarships and more eligible for jobs. And hence, the rich get richer and poor remain poorer. Now here, I also want to interject something the about the molecule of serotonin that is closely related to the hierarchical nature of man. Now, Jordan Peterson writes in his book 12 Rules of Life about this. He writes about this short story of lobsters and how after a lobster is defeated by another lobster, the lobster who is defeated, his whole posture diminishes, uh, and the lobster who has won is striding with confidence all over the place and he has occupied. And the scientists have looked at the levels of the serotonin in this in these lobsters, and I found out that the the serotonin level of the dopamine of the lobster who has lost is very low, and due to this, he is not able to again move forward in his endeavors. It is almost like what happens to a person when he breaks up, when he or she breaks up. When you break up with in a relationship, you are you are considered unfit. You have lost something that is that is very crucial for a human body. A human body wants to replicate and reproduce. And if he has been rejected by someone, or if she has been rejected by someone, then it means that this human body cannot reproduce and is unfit. This will lead you to lower levels of serotonin. And I've talked about this in my previous videos, so you can go and watch that video if you are more interested in dopamine and serotonin. And I'm sure there are many other videos on this topic. But let us move further and look at what we call as happiness in spirituality, and try to relate what we were talking about here before, and try to interrelate and find connections between the ancient wisdom of the Stoics, of many spiritual traditions like Buddhism and even religion in general, who always um, advertise morality, who always stand by moral rules. Let us understand what they have actually figured out, because this term called dopamine and this whole mechanism inside our body has been understood only a few decades ago. Before that, there was no such thing as dopamine. People understood the wiser people understood the value of long-term gratifying and the diminishing characters of short-term gratifying nature, but these this wisdom wasn't at large available available for people. So let us understand this wisdom of spiritual traditions. So first, let us look at the desirelessness of. First, let us look at what happiness actually means. Now, generally, in a materialistic society, this gain in dopamine levels is looked at as happiness. This gain in serotonin levels is looked at as happiness. And it so happens that we constantly chase this. We create attention about a certain reward. We start anticipating this reward. We create desires. We create something also called mimetic desires, which about I've talked about mimetic desires, which are uh, desires desires of the personality. Now the personality wants to be like something. Now the normal desires are to acquire something, but the mimetic desire is something that you want to be like. For example, I may not know how to drive a BMW, or I may not even know how to drive a car, but I have a desire to be like the person who drives a BMW. So this desire, called mimetic desire, is also another form of desire. Now, now this is closely related to our serotonin levels, and because owning a BMW will certainly make me higher, make me make people perceive me as someone higher in the hierarchy, and I have so many advantages if I have a BMW. So this is much more advanced, so to speak. So then, why do our spiritual traditions shun desire? And what happens if I completely stop gaining or asking for rewards? Now, rewards can also be, like we have talked before, rewards can also be rewards such as internal rewards. Like, for example, if you pray, or if you meditate, and when you end this meditation, there is a sudden increase in dopamine. Obviously, it is not as bad as eating a chocolate or smoking or drinking, but it is certainly when you are ending this prayer, or when you are ending something that is associated as good or something that is valuable to a society, then, and if you are doing this and you get this feeling of reward, then it is related to this desire. Now, a lot of spiritual teachers these days also talk about this, this desire to be spiritual, and especially J. Krishnamurti used to talk about how religious people can also fall into the traps of this kind of desire, this desire of getting value from a good society. Now, what happens when you transcend all kinds of desire? This is what a lot of enlightened people call as Satchitananda. This is the enlightenment. Now let us look at the nature of happiness here. Ramakrishna Paramahansa was a highly evolved, and he was an avatar in the 1890s, and he was considered as an avatar, and he used to narrate this short story about a dog. Now, if you look at a dog, if you observe a dog, the dog is always chewing on a bone, and sometimes what happens is the dog, while chewing the bone, cuts part of its gums, and when this happens, blood tastes its own blood and thinks that it's very tasty, and it associates the bone with the blood, with the good taste. Now, I also want to go on a tangent here to something called association, and how associating something or someone with something can change its value altogether. So this is what usually happens when we are looking at the reward systems that we have placed in our society, whether it be athletics, whether it be good values, whether it be education, or whether it be reading a book. Now, this value that you have placed is similar to what the dog feels about the bone. Now, an enlightened person is one who understands that the bone is not the source of happiness. In fact, any achieving of reward is not the source of happiness. This is what an enlightened person understands. And then he first seeks not in the outside world, first starts to seek inside through his values. But eventually he realizes that now he has just replaced physical things with abstract concepts. And eventually, when he or she gives it all up, gives every bone, every reward up, then he finds himself in a higher consciousness, where his motivation is not with his mental body, but he accesses something called Satchit Ananda, which is infinite truth, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss. Now, when he accesses this, and when he understands that what he was doing was similar to what a dog was doing, then he or she is enlightened. This is the concept of Buddhism. This is the concept of a lot of Hindu traditions. So this is the major difference between the dopamine that we seek and what the enlightened people talk about as happiness. So thank you for watching this video. I will surely make a part 2 for this video and explain the interrelations between these spiritual traditions and go more deeper into it. So be sure to subscribe to my channel, and also if you like this video, be sure to like this